Mailbag, Stone.
Here we go. As always, appreciate everybody for sending in these questions that we get to read here on the show. First mailbag question comes in from the Real Spirit Cat. He says,
"Ooh, the Real Spirit Cat."
I know, a very loyal supporter and a loyal fan. We certainly appreciate him very greatly. Here we go. Dear Off the Bench, the Philadelphia Eagles seem like the best team and best roster in football. Last night they got blown out. Their second loss in a row. Despite having a good quarterback, an elite line, and running back, their offense can't figure it out. What are your thoughts on the Eagles' chances at repeating as Super Bowl champions?
Thank you for sending in that question, Spirit Cat. Reminder, these are all real questions from you guys that, our DMs are just blowing off the chain. You can get me and Stone's DMs on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. You can email us, whatever. Get these questions in. They are blowing off the chain. Real Spirit Cat, what are the Eagles' chances of repeating? There's not a more curious team in the last 3 years than the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me take you back on the last 3 years of the Philadelphia Eagles. Ready? 2 years ago, they start the season 10-1. And they look like the best team in the NFL. What do they do from that point on after Thanksgiving? I think they get blown out on Thanksgiving, or they lose a close game on Thanksgiving. They go 10-1, so 6 games. They go 1-5 for the rest of the regular season and look terrible in all 6 games. And then they absolutely show no effort and completely quit in their first postseason game that they barely scraped in and get blown out after starting 10-1. Completely no effort in that game. All right. Next year. I forget what they started last year. Do you remember what they started? They start 2-2 or something like that?
It was a bit of a slower start.
It was a bit of a slower start, and they had an early bye. And there were national pundits calling for, hey, Nick Sirianni's lost this. This is too good of a roster based off what they did at the end of the year before, where they went 1-6 or 1-5. Yeah, 1-6 on their last 7 games, and it's terrible right now. They need to get rid of Nick Sirianni, bring in Bill Belichick or whoever, and steer this ship forward. What do? They dominate after their bye week, completely dominate the NFL, and dominate the Super Bowl, beat the Chiefs, and they win. Bring back the entire roster, even get a little bit better on paper. And what do they do this year? It doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right. And I know they have new coordinators and everything like that. It just doesn't look right. And I am not in the business of projecting what's going to happen with the Eagles, because I was way off my rocker the last 2 years. So I don't know what the heck's going to happen with them. There's been reports that there was a conversation between Jalen Hurts, Saquon, and A.J. Brown that lasted 2 hours on trying to figure out why this offense can't mesh. That's never a good sign. Players meetings, never a good sign. So I don't know what the heck's going to happen with the Eagles. If I had to guess, they're still going to be very good. They're still going to make the postseason. They're still probably going to win a playoff game. But can they repeat? I don't see it. I think that we are bound for a weird NFL season. That's my take. Your take?
Yeah, it's very interesting. We've had the Eagles at the top of our power rankings for a long time. You look at the statistics as a passing offense, they were at the bottom of the league, but they were still winning games. So it was like, okay, we'll hang with them here. And then obviously they drop back-to-back games. I think the real story here, which we'll talk about maybe in headlines or at least on my show if we don't have time for it on Off the Bench, is the Giants, because they were unbelievable in this game. But as it relates to the Eagles, Nick Sirianni, I was never a fan of Nick Sirianni. I didn't think it was a great hire, but then you have to sit there and go, he wins football games, right? And there's a lot of people that say, well, he fits in with Philadelphia, kind of a crazy, rambunctious, cocky city a little bit, and he certainly fits in as it relates to that. He's always been a guy that's been heavily reliant on his coordinators, and obviously he's had turnover at that coordinator position, especially the play caller. Now Patello comes in, Kellen Moore's out, and there's been some growing pains there with the Eagles offensively. Does Jalen Hurts have limitations? People ask that all the time. I don't think so. The guy, what he's done in the postseason has been unbelievable. Can he make all the throws that a Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes can make? Maybe not, but who else in the league or who else in the world can, right? Nobody. Their chances at repeating certainly went down over the past few weeks, but I'm not going to write them off because the roster is so good. They've got players all over the place. Keep in mind they were without Jalen Carter last night. They're on the interior of their defense, which certainly would have helped against a rookie quarterback. Didn't have him. The biggest question mark for me with the Eagles is their corners. Quinyon Mitchell, their top cover guy, went down last night, and then they had Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson in there as their corners, and those guys just simply can't play. So I would expect Howie Roseman to make a move move, trying to add a corner before the deadline at some point. I'm not going to fully hit the panic button on the Eagles, but I think we can take them out of our top 5 at least for now as it relates to the power rankings.
Yeah, God bless the power rankings crew. I know I've done power rankings because it's tough to do right now in the NFL because it feels like that is a game of musical chairs. Thank you so much for Spirit Cat. They keep saying that they want legal representation.
Huh?
Yeah, because they said that we are slandering them. The Spirit Cat says that he's being represented by the great American, Bill Cunningham. So, hey, listen, you guys sent in the questions. Next question.
All right, here we go. Mailbag question number 2. Deer off the bench from Sir Boy Wonder 513. How about it? There are rumors swirling around the water cooler that the Reds will shift controllable starters for a prominent bat. Would you find it wise to trade Hunter Greene or Nick Lodolo for a bat this offseason?
So I think this just popped out. Mark Sheldon article suggested that the Reds should trade Hunter Greene. And I've heard this now from a few different people that there's going to be big moves, all these things. And I've seen Reds fans say that if they trade Hunter Greene, they are done. Because Hunter Greene is one of the best controllable contracts in the sport, maybe the best. From a guy, if he's out there on the field, he looks like one of the best 10 pitchers in the league. And you're getting him for about $9 million a year. And you got him for this foreseeable future. And this rotation is elite. This pitching staff is elite. It's why you were able to play in the postseason this year, because the bats were not there. And the idea of trading away what is perceived as, if he's not your best player, he's your second best player. Hunter Greene is, a top 2 player on the Cincinnati Reds. A way to improve the lineup at the risk of hurting your rotation seems silly, especially when a team that is budget conscious, trading away probably your best controllable asset right now seems silly. But I'll play devil's advocate here. I will. And I'll ask this question. When you're a team that is trying to compete and you've got a clear deficiency, which is your lineup, and you play in the field that you currently play in, Great American Ballpark, it seems like you should play towards the field that you play in 81 games a year. You see the Rockies do this, that they've really never focused on pitching because it seems like a fruitless endeavor. You see this with the Yankees. They're constantly trying to get left-handed bats or right-handed batters that hit it to the opposite field because of their short porch and right field. The Chicago Cubs are increasingly going after fly ball pitchers because of the way that Wrigley Field has played over the past few years with the wind blowing in. So it seems ideal, or at least the right motion, that you should go towards playing towards your advantages, and you play 81 games at Great American Ballpark. And when you're a budget-conscious team and you can't go out and spend hundreds of millions of dollars in the growing rate for elite bats, you've got to trade what you have. You got to work with the assets you have, and the best asset that the Reds currently have is a controllable ace pitcher in Hunter Greene. And on top of this, and this is going to hurt his trade value, is that he does miss time from time to time. So if you're not going to get 200 innings from Hunter Greene, maybe you can get 162 games out of an all-star bat. I don't know if it's the right move, but we've seen other teams do this. Milwaukee Brewers traded away their Cy Young caliber arm, Corbin Burns, because they knew that they had other arms in the wings. Now, he wasn't controllable like Hunter Greene was, so it's a different story. But you've seen this happen. Nick Lodolo, I think all Reds fans would be more eager to get rid of. But obviously, Nick Lodolo is not going to bring back the same return as Hunter Greene. It's an interesting case, and it's an interesting development in Cincinnati if that's what they plan to do. If they go out and they say, hey, we are focused on maximizing our home ballpark. Because also the other side of this is maybe being a team that's centered around run prevention at Great American Ballpark isn't the best way to win games either. But we are going to maximize the field that we're going to play 81 games at. And we still feel comfortable losing either Nick Lodolo, losing Hunter Greene with our starting rotation if we can go out and get an all-star bat. Some said MVP level bat, you ain't going to get that. But an all-star bat for control with the player. It's going to be really interesting. It is. If they decide to make that move. And I would challenge Reds fans to do this. Go into that with an open mind. Don't just say, no, we're not doing that. I always get so mad when GMs go, we're not picking up the phone for deals with whoever. You should always be open to anything. No one wants to trade Joe Burrow here in Cincinnati. But if someone calls up, well, maybe not everyone. Stone peaked up. No one in Paycor Stadium wants to trade Joe Burrow. But if a team calls up and if the Commanders call you up and say, hey, we really want Joe Burrow, we'll give you Jaden Daniels and 5 first-round picks, and you're just going to say, no, we're not trading Joe Burrow. Yeah, you make that trade. There's always a price. There's always a price. And I'm just saying, maybe keep an open mind to this. I don't know if it's the right calls. You got to see the deal if they do make that thing. Obviously, there's going to be some moves trading this offseason. It's going to be a somewhat exciting offseason for Cincinnati Reds fans. And I would say be open to the idea and don't just say if they trade Hunter Greene, it's a disaster. Maybe see what the return is first. Don't say you can't trade Nick Lodolo. Maybe see what the options are or the return would be before you make your decision on a blanket statement such as you cannot trade Hunter Greene because there's always a price. Who knows what you can return? So I'm just saying keep an open mind. Stone, your thought on the idea of trading away one of these controllable pitchers?
I think that was one of your best takes here on the show. That was very well thought out. I really like that. I appreciated it. I agree with you. I think you got to be open-minded. This isn't trade Elly De La Cruz, right? It's one of these pitchers that have had issues staying healthy. They've had injury concerns. Greene obviously was excellent towards the end of the year, struggled in the playoff game against the Dodgers. Lots of pitchers probably struggle in that spot there as well. It's all about the return. What can you get for these guys? As you mentioned, the likelihood of being able to sign a massive free agent bat that can hit lots of home runs and kind of help uplift your offense here this offseason, probably not very likely. But if you move Hunter Greene or Nick Lodolo, the return there possibly could help you out offensively. Great point about the ballpark. Reds got to find ways to hit the ball over the fence a little bit. The Blue Jays are proving that you don't necessarily need to do that. Obviously, Vlad's hit some home runs. I understand that. But that lineup, they put together hits. I still think in the postseason that is very, very valuable. But you need to hit more home runs than the Reds did. That is very obvious. You have a hitter-friendly park. They need to find a way to get a new bat on this team. And with their budget, probably can't do that in free agency. Might need to move one of those guys. I'm not eager to do it. I'm not sitting here saying, yes, 100% trade Hunter Greene. But put your feelers out there. Understand what could potentially be offered from a different team and then go from there. I don't think anybody should be untradeable besides Elly De La Cruz here in this spot. All right. But you had something to add to that?
No, I was just going to say, the main point is be open to it.
Yeah.
Be open to it and don't just put a blanket statement over. If you trade Hunter Greene, that's a terrible decision because sometimes you got to see what the return is first. Yeah. And you should always keep a phone line open. Yep. Yeah. Mailbag.
All right, here we go. Final one from Tay.
Tay.
Appreciate the question, Tay.
Yeah.
I can't figure out this NFL season. Every time I think I know who the best team in the league is, they lose. I can't get a grip on who is elite this year. Do you think we will get new blood in contention for the Super Bowl here in 2025?
That's a really good question, Tay. And that is something that I think everyone in sports media is trying to figure out. And that is, who are the elite teams in the NFL? There are teams, obviously, that are really good. There are teams that are going to be playing in the postseason. But in years past, we could look at last year. Lions, Eagles, Bills, Chiefs. Those were the elite teams, and the Ravens were there too. Those were the elite teams. This year, every time that you feel like you understand who the best team in the league is, oh, it's the Packers after the first 2 weeks. Oh, it's the Lions right now. Oh, it's the Eagles. Oh, it's the Bills. They lose or they look bad in a loss. Like teams lose, so that happens. But then not only that, they look bad. Like the Eagles look bad right now. The Bills have looked shaky and obviously didn't win in a division game against the Pats. So I think we are having a year And what was it, 2017? There's that graphic of the quarterbacks that were playing in the conference championships in 2017. And it was Nick Foles and Case Keenum and Blake Bortles. And then, of course, the GOAT Tom Brady. Are we heading to a season like that? No, because I think that more than ever, the quarterbacks across the board are playing pretty well. Like you always talk about who's top 10. Well, there's like clearly an elite 4, and then there's about 12 guys that are all really good on a given week. Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Baker Mayfield, like name them. Even you can go down the list to even you can go to heck, Kyler Murray has games where he looks really, really good. So I think quarterback play is at an all-time high in the NFL. And I think this is a weird year. I think this is going to be a year where we change our opinion on who the elite teams are every single week. I don't think it would shock anybody if the Lions have an absolute stinker in the next few weeks. Have an absolute stinker. And then we're like, are the Bucs the best team in the league? Because they keep winning. Oh, they keep winning on last-second field goals. So how can you say they're the best team in the league? Like, they haven't looked good. They haven't looked great. And they haven't earned the credit that the Chiefs, who were winning on last-second field goals last year, they hadn't earned that respect of, oh, you're the 2-time reigning champs. I think we are heading to a really weird year and an exciting year to where the ethos of the league changes week to week. Who you think is good changes week to week. And that's an exciting place to be. That's an exciting place to be to where, yeah, I'd probably say the Lions are the best team in the league right now. But what happens if they lose? Oh, then it's going to be the Bucs. What happens if they lose? Like, it's going to change week to week. And I think it's going to be very exciting to see who's playing in the divisional round and who's playing in the conference championship round. But as I'm saying this, it'll probably end up being Bills Chiefs versus Eagles Rams or Eagles 49ers. Like, it'll just be what we've seen before, even after this exciting year. I think we are in store for some new blood in those conference championship games. Go.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with as we continue to go through the regular season. It's going to be, as we do these power rankings every week, we're probably going to be switching up who the teams are up at the top. But there's a lot of teams that are having some success right now, particularly in the AFC South, that have had no real experience in the postseason. Obviously, Lawrence and the Jags have the one come from behind crazy postseason win against Herbert and the Chargers. But beyond that, there isn't a ton of stuff like that. So while I think it's going to fluctuate throughout the regular season, kind of your end point, well, you're going to be able to beat these teams in the postseason because, the Bills might struggle at some point. The Chiefs might continue to struggle with the Lions. I think they're all going to be in the postseason, and who can knock them off in the postseason when they have that experience is the main question here for me, and we'll see. But it does feel more even than it had. I mean, the NFL is so great, right? The parity is usually unbelievable, but usually you can sit there and say, oh, these top teams, they're tough to beat. Right. They're really tough to beat. You don't have that this year. And it feels like there's so many that are in the mix. And like Tampa, we all love Tampa. They're a fun team. Baker should be, in my opinion, the front runner for MVP. But they've had all these one-score games and these game-winning drives. How sustainable is that? Probably not very sustainable, right? So it seems like it's shaping out to be a fantastic year. And ultimately, we'll see if some of these new teams without that experience can hang around in December and January and knock off some of these teams that have kind of been here, done that. And ultimately, that will decide whether or not we have new blood in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's so the NFL always gets credit for its parity, and they should. It's amazing. The worst team in the league, Cincinnati Bengals, can win on any given week. That's what happens in the NFL. But in the same jest, we kind of always know who's going to be a true contender. You get to the postseason, yeah, the Broncos last year looked good and were 10-7. And yeah, the Steelers were 10-7, but they had no chance in the postseason. That's how the NFL has always been. Like the elite teams, the division winners, the teams that win 14, 13 games, those are the champions. Those are the teams more often than not that you can put your dollar on, hey, this team's going to win it. I don't think that's the case this year. Like, I think the postseason might be really interesting. Like, let's take the way it's currently set up. You get a Jags versus Bills first round playoff game, or you get a Colts versus Broncos or Colts versus Chiefs first round playoff game in the AFC. That's exciting. You get an Eagles versus Rams first round playoff game like we did last year in the divisional round. That's really exciting. And I think for the first time ever, we don't know quite how the playoffs are going to pan out. which is cool.